This is a beginning point. This is the beginning of the rest of my life. I got the meaning, and I got to write it down, because I don't want to forget it.
Just win, baby.
Welcome to this little quick hitter. I'm Jim Nastic of True North Fantasy Football and one of the co-hosts of the Gold Jacket podcast, found Tuesdays on the TNFF network on YouTube and most of your favorite listening platforms. Now, I wouldn't exactly call this a Gold Jacket episode, but one, because Connor's not here. But today I felt it was a good time to jump into the Gold Jacket favorite segment that we feature from time to time called the Double Double. This time I put a little bit of a spin on it, but first, before I get into that, let me introduce the guest, because I can't just talk about these questions myself. So let me introduce our first guest today. Joining me, special guest, needs no introduction, but I'm giving him one anyway. You might recognize him from the YouTube videos like this one, or see him kicking around on Twitter. He's the co-creator of the Sons of Dynasty, the media specialist for True North Fantasy Football. He's making bank on the SODFS. His wife inspires him, and his sons remind him he's often imitated but never duplicated. It's Dan Brown. Dan, man, what's going on? How you been?
And the crowd goes wild. What's up, Jim? I am absolutely thrilled to be here with you gentlemen tonight. I'm really looking forward to what we got going on here. A quick hitter on a Wednesday night with two fine gentlemen like yourselves. Let's go. I'm excited.
Yeah, man, me too. And like you said, two guys are here. So let me get into the next guest. He doesn't need an introduction, but I'm going to give him one too. He's the other co-creator of True North Fantasy Football with Travis Seal. He's usually manning the ones and twos. You might know his voice from the True North Fantasy podcast, or more recently heard him on Sirius XM's Channel 87. I know him as the cat dropping stats and Twitter chats. The reason you even see my face or hear my voice, it's the one, the only Tyrell Maclachlan. Ty, man, what's going on?
Same old. Thank you. That is quite the introduction, and definitely warranted for D Brown. Not sure for myself. D Brown articulated it perfectly. Getting over the hump day, the only way to do it is getting on the mics, talking some football. So super pumped to do it. I love this format too. Like you said, it's the Gold Jacket favorite format, doing the double dip here, because a lot of people say it's splitting hairs or whatever when you talk about players inside of a tier, but that's exactly what you have to do when you're on the clock in a dynasty startup. So I really love doing this. A little bit of trivia vibe to it as well. So
yeah, man. So for anyone unfamiliar with the concept of the double double, here's a quick little rundown. The name's derived from a term for a cup of coffee up here, 2 cream, 2 sugar. But in this case, I take two sets of players, a similar ADP, that's average draft position for you, the guys that don't know. Ask the guest blindly which they prefer, and hence double double. Fairly easy. But this time around, I thought I'd take a little bit of a twist. And I think names throw a little bit of a wrench into people's decision-making when they just see the name value. So I decided we're going to take the names out for the first round and go strictly on some stats that I cherry hand-picked. Now, these ADPs that I'm pulling from are all FFPC Dynasty Startup Superflex 2 quarterbacks. The draft dates I pulled from are from January 1st, 2021 until today, which I believe is July 28th. Total of 45 drafts. So first round, we're doing wide receivers, fellas. And first up, player A is what I'm going to call him. And he's coming off the board with an ADP of 20.4, a target share of 25.7%. That's 125 targets, a hog rate of 14.7, a true catch rate of 88%. And he scored 16.9 fantasy points per game in 2020. And his quarterback had a QBR of 112.8 when he's targeting him, and he had a 50% catch rate in the red zone. I'd say that's not a bad-looking player if I do say so myself. But he's going up against player B, and he's coming off the board slightly after him with an ADP of 23.8. He has a target share of 23.1%, 134 targets, a hog rate of 15.7%, a true catch rate of 88.8%. Not really that much higher. And he scored 21.9 fantasy points per game in 2020. His quarterback had a QBR rating of 130 when he targeted him, and he had a 77.8% catch rate in the red zone. Another good player, if I would say so myself, but it does not matter what I say. Matters what you gentlemen say, and I want to know, who are you taking, player A or player B, for your dynasty startup teams, and why? So let's start with you, Dan.
Well, definitely like the twist, not having the names here. Like you mentioned, I do think that name value can get in the way, and a great way to do that is take away the names and look at the stats and see what we have to go with here. Another question that comes up to me is potentially the age of player A and player B, both with where they're going ADP wise and the flooded market of wide receivers. Both seem to be top tier options here. So neither one's probably very old at this point. So for the sake of an argument, let's say that they're close to the same age. Looking at player B, there's a couple of things there that really draw me more towards player B. One would be the target share mixed with the larger number of targets. Seems to be tied to an offense that has a little bit higher rate of a volume and isn't going to bank on as much efficiency as we saw with player A. And the QBR when targeted is another big thing. Obviously, that player B has great chemistry with the quarterback at hand. So I find myself leaning towards player B, but before I get any further with my guesses, I will kick it over to Ty.
Well, that's where the trivia comes in, right? Because I am pretty sure I know who these two players are as well. And I think some of these, high efficiency metrics and where they're going in average draft position is certainly the giveaway. But the other giveaway is definitely what D Brown touched on there with the volume. When you look at player B, he only needed 23% of his team's targets to see 134 total targets, whereas player A needed a higher percent of his team's targets just to see 125 targets. So you hear the phrase volume is king, and right there you kind of want to go with player B, especially when you look at some of that efficiency with the QBR and stuff. And can I let the cat out of the bag here, Jimbo, or what?
Yeah, go ahead.
Because player A has to be Justin Jefferson.
Player A is Justin Jefferson.
Yeah. So this guy is coming off a top 5 rookie season in the history of the game, basically, right? 4th best fantasy season by a rookie wide receiver ever, the most receiving yards by any rookie wide receiver merger. But that market share just isn't worth as much as it is for that offense for player B. You know what I mean? And I think the efficiency that we're talking about is going to be really hard to repeat. Like Justin Jefferson, he barely cracked the top 20 among all wide receivers in targets and catches, but the guy was top 10 in air yards and yards after the catch, which is very hard to do both. Actually, only 3 wide receivers ranked top 10 in both air yards and yards after the catch: Tyreek Hill, Stephon Diggs, and Justin Jefferson. So that's very, very good company. And there is a way for Justin Jefferson to pay off his ADP, compensate for that regression you might see in the efficiency department, and that's the touchdowns, because Adam Thielen really dominated the touchdowns in the end zone, especially last season. It was an amazing monopoly he had in that Vikings offense. So who's player B, Joe?
Well, player B is in some good company, man, because you mentioned him. Player B is Tyreek Hill.
Is it really? I thought it might have been Terry McLaurin for some. I wasn't sure.
No, player B is Tyreek Hill, man. So with that, let's just go strictly on name value there. Who would you rather have dynasty startup right now, just on namesake value, Tyreek Hill or Justin Jefferson, washing the stats away?
It is Tyreek Hill for me. As much as I love Justin Jefferson and his ascension to the top of these wide receiver rankings, it was glorious this past year. He did things unprecedented as far as rookie wide receivers go, and his value has acclimated accordingly. But we kind of have to be fooling ourselves if we think Justin Jefferson is going to come out and put up even similar numbers, I would think, in 2021. Now, as Ty mentioned, the touchdown target share there for Adam Thielen was substantially higher than it probably should have been. So regression to the mean is coming, and Justin Jefferson could end up with a few more touchdowns in 2021 to bode well with his yards after the catch and overall yardage that he did get. So I'm not trying to put out too many fires for Justin Jefferson, but he's a 2021 season away from being more of a back end wide receiver 1 or even a middling wide receiver 2 this year. And you could see his dynasty value, drop substantially. We see these guys shuffle in and out of the top 5, top 6 constantly, almost on a yearly basis. It was just a couple short years ago we were viewing Juju Smith-Schuster as the overall consensus dynasty wide receiver 1. And look at him now. He's down there at a late wide receiver 2 range at this point. The same outcome very well could happen for Justin Jefferson. I'm not saying that that's likely, and the upcoming departure of Adam Thielen probably bodes well for him to remain a mainstay in that offense. But, I am not opposed to moving some Justin Jefferson exposure right here, right now, while you're getting top dollar.
Yeah, and that's coming from the biggest Justin Jefferson truther I knew coming out. So that goes a long way to how I would answer the question for sure. I'm glad I got to hear D Brown's thoughts on that first, but I think unless you're playing like 3 to 5 years out, it's pretty easy for me to take Tyreek Hill over Justin Jefferson right now.
Oh, absolutely. I love exactly what you're touching on. I like the fact that Tyreek Hill is tied to, let's just face it, let's just call it what it is, a better quarterback for fantasy and Pat Mahomes. I think he's got a better coach in Andy Reid. So, for me, it's Tyreek Hill. But again, nobody really cares what I have to say. We want to know what you guys had to say, and that is exactly what we wanted to hear. Well, at least what I wanted to hear. So before we go to round 2, though, I just want to take a quick moment to shout out Monkey Knife Fight for a little bit of an ad read and get them in there.
If you want the best DFS player prop games in the industry, jump onto Monkey Knife Fight. Monkey Knife Fight is sweeping the nation right now, and we at True North are proud to be doing it along with them. They've got games for all sports and skill levels that are sure to keep you on the edge of your seat, with endless opportunity to watch your winnings pile up. With our promo code TNFF, Monkey Knife Fight will match your first deposit up to $50. So sign up now with our promo code and you can get up to $50 of free money to start making some bank. Again, that's monkeyknifefight.com, and the promo code is TNFF at your first deposit to start playing today.
Now let's go to round 2. I decided we'd switch it up a little bit, go running back, because only so many wide receivers we can talk about. So this one we're going running backs, player A, player B. Again, no names. Player A coming off the board with an ADP of 8.9. He averaged 15.5 carries per game, and he has 77.9 rushing yards per game with a true yards per carry of 4.6 yards. He had 19.9 receiving yards per game at a click of 8.3 yards per reception, and he saw stack boxes on 22% of his carries, had breakaway runs on 6%, and a touchdown rate of 4.5%. Not a bad-looking running back. But again, as always, he's going up against somebody. It's not just him. So player B, he's coming off the board slightly after him, ADP 11.8. He averaged more carries at 22.3 carries per game, and he had 111.2 rushing yards per game with a true yards per carry of 4.7 yards and 25.8 receiving yards per game at a click of 8.2 yards per reception. He saw stack boxes, though, on 30.4% of his carries and had a breakaway runs on only 3.2%, but a touchdown rate of 4.8%. So in a dynasty startup, based on these stats, who are you taking, player A or player B, and why? Let's kick it off with you, Ty.
I was hoping to go D Brown first because you guys know me. I like my explosive running backs. I like that breakaway run rate. So that one definitely stands out to me. The problem is I do know who both these players are, I think. I definitely know who player A is again. And I was wrong about player B last time, so I'll definitely hold back on that one. But I think this one is really close. I'll put it that way. I think this might be a matter of taste, and it might dictate how you execute the rest of your startup draft after you take this player in the first or whatever. Because I think when you look at the running back position, you definitely want to lean more heavily on just the numbers, right? We know situation matters for a running back more than any other position, and it's not even close. That's the root of running backs don't matter. It's how much the situation matters for 99% of running backs. But these are two running backs that you might argue are in that 1 percentile. Having said that, I really do think this is almost a coin flip. But when you look at the advanced metrics, you can't not take the guy who just had more efficiency, more production, more volume, while seeing more stacked boxes. So I think I'll take player B, especially at the small discount. You know what I mean?
Player B, I like it. Dan, what are you saying?
Yeah, no, I'm going to echo just about everything that Ty said. And, this being running backs, age matters to me even more in this avenue than versus the wide receiver. And with running backs, you do have a nice changeup. You have a couple of the top running backs are starting to get up there in age. And we're going to start to see a lot of these younger running backs cycle up towards the top and bring a lot of these veterans that are seeing the production numbers like player B is bringing to the table, but age is a huge factor for me when I'm talking about selecting running backs, especially with an ADP, in the back of the first round here. And this is a big year. I'm going to tell you right now, like I mentioned, those top 3-4 running backs, you're either going to ride them to a championship this year, or you need to look at collecting some tickets right about now, because the title wave is coming. The JTs, the Najee Harrises, they are going to be up there at the 1, 2, 3 here. And if not this time next year, definitely the year after that. So I too gravitate towards player B with just the stats at hand right here.
Yeah, absolutely. I know stats can skew and paint a picture, and that's exactly why I chose these particular stats. I don't think they fully give away exactly who these two running backs are. I love how you guys are both picking B, man. I like it. All right, so that's player B with no names. So what if I was to just ask you straight up now in a dynasty startup, who are you taking first, Dalvin Cook or Johnathan Taylor? Because, Dan, you mentioned Johnathan Taylor. He's going to be up there in the 1, 2s, and 3s, and if not next year, if not this year, next year. So name value alone, and I mean, they both are phenomenal. I believe Dalvin Cook finally had his first healthy season since high school. But which one are you taking, Dalvin or JT?
Well, I mean, I think you have to ask yourself here, this is your first round pick here at the back of the first round. This is a part where you're going to decide which way do you want to swing your team build. This is either I'm going for it this year, if not this year, the next year, building a contender, and you're making that decision right here at the back of the first round. I wouldn't fault anybody at all for taking Johnathan Taylor over Cook at this point. While the production dip may be off the first year, maybe even the second, the long-term value, like I mentioned, running back age is vitally important, especially this type of capital. I mean, you're not just, this isn't a 4th, 5th, or even 6th round pick. This is the back of the first round right here. And so I want to investing in running backs that are starting to get to that age, no matter the elite production that we're seeing this past year or even are going to see this year. The cliff is coming, and ask my buddy Todd Gurley about how fast it can arrive.
Yeah. And I like it. So name value alone, you're leaning more JT, or are you leaning more Dalvin?
I say JT, but as of right now, I still currently have Dalvin Cook ahead of JT in my dynasty rankings. So I would lean towards Cook. I think I can get a year, if not 2, of still top 5 production out of him. And I'm not opposed to moving him at any point after this as well. JT's a bad year, or a Marlon Mack coming back from a horrific injury and taking some quality production away from him, from no longer being in this position to where it's even a question. I don't think you can say the same thing about Dalvin Cook. I don't think that he's going to lose any real value over the course of this year, barring a major injury of any kind. And I don't think that JT can really sniff the production that we're expecting this year in 2021.
I love it, man. Ty, who are you taking? Player A, player B?
Yeah, I mean, my gut kind of leans towards Johnathan Taylor. It kind of gets back to what I was saying about this will dictate the rest of your startup drafts. Like, if you want JT, you're probably going to operate under that 2 to 3 to 4 year window. Whereas if you take Dalvin Cook, you're a win now team right away, and you need to execute your draft in that fashion. So I think that would be my answer almost, but I think JT is probably the right answer because he will have more resale value when you leave that draft, I would imagine. And you kind of, like D Brown hinted at, right? When we saw these ADPs and we see the stats with player B, and how much better they are, frankly, than player A, but player A is going higher. We see how important that age is for the fact that this guy's going in the first round, right? And Johnathan Taylor is kind of the guy in a vacuum you should be identifying over Dalvin Cook. I love Dalvin Cook, the elusiveness, everything. It is top notch, but Johnathan Taylor also comes with that box checked where he's an ultra athlete, like he's a freak of nature. And Dalvin Cook doesn't have that. In fact, he actually tested out pretty poorly. That was his one single knock sort of coming out of FIU or whatever. So I think Johnathan Taylor is kind of the answer. I do worry a little bit about that muddied backfield, like Nyheim Hines signing a new contract would suck for his long-term upside in the passing game. I think both these guys have a little bit left to the imagination when it comes to their receiving game, like their usage, not their talent in that facet of the game, just how much they're used in the passing game, how much their offenses use the running backs in the passing game, because we have to put that into question. In Indianapolis, yeah, Nyheim Hines is still there, but it's also Carson Wentz, who probably isn't throwing to the running backs as much as Phillip Rivers was. So there's a lot that goes into this question, and it really will dictate your startup, who you decide to go with. Whereas I think Dalvin Cook gives you a lot less to worry about in the immediate future, but definitely JT is the one who has better resale value.
I like what both points you guys have been making here. I agree with Dan where I feel Dalvin's guaranteed a bigger piece of his pie. I'm not sure if his pie is going to be like, the market rushing percentage and rushing totals are going to be as high with Indy as opposed to Mini. I'm not 100% sure, but I do like that it's definitely Dalvin, right? Like there's no Nyheim Hines. Yeah. Nyheim Hines is there. He could be a thorn in JT's side. The other thing I'm really interested to know is how many stack boxes does JT see next year? Player A, just for everybody running around at home, Johnathan Taylor. Less stack boxes. Player B, Dalvin Cook. When you are the man, the man, you stack the boxes on the man. And that is exactly what they did. And I actually think maybe Dalvin Cook might see less stack boxes now because of Justin Jefferson.
Way less.
Right?
Yeah. I think people are coming around to this whole play action pandemic that they are, inciting on themselves. It is crazy. Like, I'm just going to stack the box, even though Minnesota is killing me on the deep pass play action game. Like, no, let's stack that box 1/3 of the time anyways. And that's why we see a lot of these outside zone schemes that are sweeping the league too. Like, it really sets that play action up, and stack boxes mean a lot less for sure. Ask Derrick Henry and Tannehill and them.
Yeah, how aggravating as a defense to have to defend that right there. I mean, you're moving one way, and then all of a sudden you have to reverse field and try and locate that wide receiver that's streaming, cutting back across the field. I mean, it's actually giving NFL defenses nightmares right now, and it's fun to watch too. So, hats off to the NFL teams that really seem to take advantage of that. And Ryan Tannehill, I'm hoping we bring a little bit of that to the Atlanta Falcons here in 2021.
Exactly.
Man, I'm loving it. And I just wanted to say thank you guys so much for coming on. That's it. That's a double, man. 2 sets of 2. That has been fantastic. I want to thank everybody for tuning in and watching this episode. It's been a concept of the Gold Jacket Podcast. We're proud members of the True North Fantasy Football Team. You can find us on YouTube on the TNFF network. Make sure to click and subscribe and never miss any content dropping. Make sure you follow it on True North FFB or True North FFB on Twitter. You follow Dan Brown at Dan Brown NFL. You follow Tyrell at TNFF Tyrell, and myself at Gold Jacket QBs. And I just want to thank you guys so much for coming on, man. And you guys got on a shout out anything you guys are doing one last time before we say goodbye.
Yeah, I'll take a quick minute to shout out to our friends at Viridian Global. Check out everything that these guys have to offer. 50 plus fantasy football brands that you're mingling with on a daily basis on Twitter. Show a little support to those guys. Get yourself some swaggy ass gear, and whether it's True North, Gold Jackets, Sons of Dynasty, and many more, quite frankly. Go check them out, ViridianGlobal.com. You will not be disappointed.
I have to thank you so much. I had them on the show sheet. I'm getting a little hectic there. You saw me do the old push out the side box.
Well, our viewers didn't get to see that, before we hopped on, that, Jim's like, all we hear is dad. And then Jim goes like, hey guys, I'll be right back. I'm really sorry. And we're like, oh, that's all right. And then, 30 seconds later, all we hear is the smoke alarm going. And so, yeah, you put the 5 alarm fire out and got your double in you. So that's
true
dad.
double.
Yeah, that was a double duty there, man. Fireman / podcaster / dad / everything, man. It's been
double kitchen.
I love it.
Yeah, man. This has been fun. And what about you, Ty? You got anything you want to shout out before we say goodbye?
No, just super grateful to everyone on the team at True North Fantasy Football. Hit me up on Twitter at TNFF Tyrell if you have any questions, if you want to reach out at all. Thanks so much, as always, to at TCL14, the man, the myth, the legend who built it from clay. So, the whole team, I think, is just crushing it. Craig crushed it last night on the gold jacket. So everyone should be listening to that episode last night. That is right below in the feed as well. So thanks so much for having me on, Jim. Anytime I can hop on, it is always fun.
Man, again, thank you guys so much. And thank everybody for tuning in and watching. Until next time, when I want to drop one of these doubles, it's only happening in